Okay. Hmm. Is this working? How are we now? It's picking up my webcam. Can you hear me? Oh, sweet. Okay. So I had to go through OBS. I thought I could do it directly through oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Had to go through OBS for some reason going straight through YouTube didn't work. And you can see me, and this is great. Fantastic. Oh, so great for everyone to be here. I'm actually going to move around my chat so I can kind of actually, this is probably okay. I like this. So thanks for joining me. My name is Greg Bruce, and hopefully most of you have seen the lecture recital. I'm streaming to you live from uh, St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador on the east coast of Canada, and very happy today to have released my first lecture recital. And I recorded it back in on October the 18th of this year in the Electronic Music Studio. I've got to give a huge shout out to my audio engineer Tyler Novak, and my videographer Ankit Mastakar. They were so great to work with, and of course to U of T, my supervisor Ayun Huang, my saxophone teacher uh, Wallace Halliday, and my electronic music teacher Elliot Britton. They were all played a big role in getting this together, and it was a first for me for not only doing a lecture recital, but I decided that I wanted to both edit and mix it. So, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. I'm sure as time goes on and I learn more skills in these areas, I will look back to this and see and hear all the faults. But for right now, I'm pretty pleased. Um, yeah, so I don't know what to say. Does anyone have any questions? I posted to the Saxophonics subreddit today, which was pretty exciting. I never ever posted Reddit, so I posted there, and people had some um, questions and comments about what was going on. And I think even listening to the lecture, it still might not totally be clear. So I'm here in the chat now. I'm just wondering like what your thoughts are, if you had any questions, if you wanted anything clarified, or you're curious about the processes or whatever or anything. Yeah. Or you're just here to look my pretty face. Well, what I can do is I can see what kind of amp are you using to achieve the best feedback. So this is a really good question. So when I started experimenting with this, well, maybe what I can do is I can tell the story of how I discovered this, and that will lead into the discussion around um, what amps I'm using. So I was actually Rick, you might have been there. It was a night music jam, which is a monthly kind of new music improv jam that happens at the Ship, which is on Duckworth Street here in St. John's. And I'm actually going to be playing in number 204 this Thursday. And it was at one of these jams that it's kind of anything goes, and I was playing and I was trying to play really quietly. So I was getting, I was playing low and trying to play really quietly. So I was putting my bell further and further on top of the microphone. And eventually what had happened, I was playing really cool, and I was fingering a low B flat. So for those of you who aren't saxophonists, low B flat, it's the lowest note in the saxophone. So like all the holes are closed. So it's essentially just a tube at that point. And so what happened, I was putting the mic further and further down the bell to try and play quietly and get the microphone to pick up some of the breath sounds, and feedback happened. It's the same effect as if you were to cup your hands around the microphone, um, if there's, assuming there's some monitors on stage. So if you cup your hands, it can create feedback. So I was kind of doing this with my saxophone, and I did it again. Oh, it's the same note. Oh, that's kind of cool. And then I moved my fingers, and it changed notes. And I didn't really do any more of that because I finished out the idea at the time, and I remember talking to Wallace Hammond, the sound guy, and he said, "Oh, don't do that. Like, it's not good for the speakers. It's not good for anything. Like, long sustained tones aren't good, especially feedback. It's so pure in terms of its frequency range that it can. I guess that's how you blow out a speaker." So he said, "Oh, it's really not a good idea to do that." I thought, okay, but in my head, it's like, oh, that was really cool. I kind of like made a couple of different feedback notes. Um, so the time went on, and in first year of my DMA program at U of T, my teacher Wallace Halliday, there's like always this function. Well, there wasn't one this year, but there's often like a wine and cheese event where some people play at the CMC, the Canadian Music Center, which is really near U of T. And he's like, "Oh, can you?" Like it was like the week before or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, can you play something?" I said, "Of course." You always say yes. Those of you who are professional musicians, you always say yes and then figure it out later. So I said yes, and I'm gonna finally explore this feedback thing that's just been in my head for years now. And so what I did for the first iteration of my feedback saxophone stuff is I just put a Beta 57. I'm gonna move my, let's see, yeah, I'll put it in the frame there. This guy right here. Turn that, sorry about the noise. But yeah, there we go. Beta 57, classic instrument microphone that I bought on eBay like 20 years ago. Anyways, so I just put that in the bell of my tenor saxophone. Yeah, 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 absolutely, Nathan. Um, that's the that's called creative rebellious spirit. Um, so yeah, I put the microphone down the bell and I plugged it into an amp, and I wasn't using any pedals, and I could make these feedback tones. And so I ended up performing like a rudimentary version of the first piece of my lecture recital, Stride. And at the time, I was using like my keyboard amp that I've used in gigs and used to make noise at home. It's a Yorkville wedge like keyboard monitor. And they say if you're gonna put a saxophone through an like a speaker or an amplifier, a keyboard amp is pretty good because it's pretty broad frequency range, and it doesn't color the sound as much as a guitar amp. Um, but anyway, so I own one, and that's what I was using. And as time went on, so I started doing stuff in the electronic music studio at U of T, and I was kind of getting sick of lugging around this like big amplifier. So ended up trying all the speakers and amplifiers that were in the electronic music studio. So I even tried like the super fancy, like they're like $2,000, for a single speaker, and like super high quality, very broad frequency range, like just in terms of sound quality, like the best. None of those worked. I don't know why. I don't understand everything. Okay, so I know there's a bit of a delay, but I'll get to your question, Jeff, in a second. So, okay. Um, so, oh yeah. So, anyways, the amp that I found in the electronic music studio was a Roland Cube 30, like a totally like it's like a practice guitar amp. Has these built-in like distortion settings. Like it's not boutiquey. It's really just for guitarists to bring around different to different gigs. Anyway, so this is the one I used for the recital. There's a few others that work. I had to go to Lon McQuaid once to because I was doing this at a conference, so I had to figure out what amps the conference had and what I had. And yeah, so but basically it seems like kind of like weird janky amp like kind of strange amps work, and the really nice, clean, expensive ones, they don't work. Um, so Jeff's question, you shared a lot of the preparation process on social media, but were there any particular lessons you took away from working on preparing all this music? Were there any highlights that might expand beyond this lecture recital? Um, so in terms of that, Jeff, yeah, it's a really good question. So pretty much there's my process for creating the pieces was, I guess, finding a set of gestures that worked together. So the first piece of my recital was just was only feedback tones. And so I go, okay, I want to kind of write a piece, like improvise with this, and then turn the improvisation into a piece that only used feedback tones. Um, Great. But beyond that, I wanted to, as I said in the lecture portion, had to be idiomatic. So actually, the kind of the Hijaz, Nathan, you would be familiar with that. The Hijaz or the Fragish or the fifth mode of harmonic minor, the scale that that piece uses is kind of idiomatic. It just really works kind of strangely. Um, and then I want to do another piece that uses that combines conventional tones. So there are like Colin mentioned the X, Y, and Z. I think I might want to write a piece that maybe only explores that. Like I noticed that uh, like walking around a larger room, the feedback pitch, it will like if you like walk away. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Jeff. And I think that's why these pieces are like they're etudes. They're not just like, okay, let's do whatever, because it's a completely new um, system for me and for the audience. So I need to kind of learn myself what works both idiomatically and under my hands, but also musically. So um, yeah, so writing something that explores that X, Y, Z axes more fully would be really cool. One thing that I've kind of imagined that I haven't done yet is like, what if I had 10 amps? What if my microphone was patched into 10 different amps and they're all EQ'd differently? So if I face one, it would give me a certain feedback tone on a given fingering, and then I turn to another one and it gives me a different tone. Or depending on the EQ of each amp, I would get a different scale of notes. Um, what about doing this with bari sax? It doesn't really work with alto saxophone. I think the horn's just too small to have a broad range of feedback fingerings. But yeah, bari sax. What about that? I know I don't think you would have heard any, but I have fingerings for feedback multiphonics. Okay, so write a piece that explores feedback multiphonics and saxophone multiphonics and like going between them. And maybe I can't remember, but maybe there are tones where I can like be like blowing a multiphonic and then having a feedback multiphonic, so I can have like and then singing a multiphonic singing. Oh, there's another thing I totally forgot about singing. So I have like an etude in the works where I'm playing feedback and singing along with it, like not blowing. So then I could play feedback, blow into the horn like you saw in the third piece, and then kind of hum and vocalize like in the Stetson piece. So there's a whole ton of things that I could do, and pretty well, like for those of you who aren't familiar, but like I talk about in my lecture a little bit, Colin Stetson, like he pretty much, if you listen to his first album, and I think for those of you who know saxophone and maybe know a little bit about like production, electronic music, you can pretty much listen to his first album and hear that yeah, these all sound, they're kind of like etudes. They're exploring a few things. They're not full on. They don't feel like a new language. But then by the time he gets to his second album, it's like, okay, he like cut out the stuff that maybe was less effective, and then just he really honed in on, all right, this is my aesthetic, this is my language. So I feel like I can, or I could, or maybe I'm going to kind of really dive into this feedback saxophone stuff. And I need to decide, or event just through the process of making music and improvising, it will become obvious to me like where I can go with it and what I can do with it, and really develop my own language and aesthetic. And I think it'd be super cool to like get other people to write for it, write for the system. And that's why like uh, my documentation, I'm still working on that. Like I was doing a bunch of working on the notation kind of in the beginning of the fall, but then I had to actually get the pieces together and perform them and then mix and edit and all this stuff. So in the new year, I'm going to be looking at some notation. Um, what's Colin's question? The XYZ shifting to produce tonal shifts. This is the Doppler effect. Moving forward bends up and vice versa. Yeah, so I don't know. That's like the kind of the really interesting and fun kind of part of this, is that obviously it's not just me figuring out, okay, this is something I want to do musically. It's like does the how does the technology interact with the saxophone? And it's like I don't know. So through my improvising, I'm still finding new fingerings, and it's completely by accident. And maybe there's some other amplifier or microphone, or again on Barry sax that will like open up a whole other set of possibilities. Like it's that's the exciting thing about it. So I don't know if it's the Doppler effect, but Colin, I mean, you're a sciencey guy, so maybe you would know. Like, okay, let's say I'm like here, and I start and I'm playing over here. I'll walk forward, and the tone will bend up, but then I'll pass a certain point, and then it'll dip down again. And so the same thing happens if I start next to the mic. It'll go like ew, ew, ew. So I don't know if I'm like hitting the wavelength or something, and then it's like starting over because it's at a different point in the wavelength. So I don't know, that is a realm of stuff that I can explore, and like maybe working with someone who actually knows something about physics and science would reveal some possibilities. Yeah, cubes are supposed to be workhorses. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I think Elliot, the guy who runs Elliot Britton, who runs the studio, he just finds it so funny that of all the fancy stuff that's there, I think he owns that cube amplifier. He left it there, like he's like it's like it's not worthless, but it's not. No one's doing research on the cube amp. Art, this is a great question. Do leaks in the sax have a greater impact on regular sax playing or feedback playing? Art, my audio level isn't consistent. Hang on now. I could like move this mic closer. I'm kind of moving around a lot. I'm watching my um, I'm watching my meter here to make sure I'm not clipping. Let's hopefully let me know if that's better, people. Um, I need a different mic for doing these things. This is like, whatever, a bar mic for playing rock and roll. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the leaks in the saxophone. So one of the things that you can tell, the system detects easily, and if you don't have, if the key isn't sealing, the pitch goes sharper. So one of the things I like, you really, especially if you're doing feedback only, you really need to make sure your horn is sealing well, which is why I was bringing it to you so often. Art, uh, Art runs Horns Reborn in Etobicoke, and he's a fantastic technician. So whether it has a greater greater impact. The note still sounds, and you're not actually blowing when you're creating feedback. So it does affect the pitch, though. Um, yeah, so I couldn't answer that, but you can feel it because when the microphone is um, uh, when the microphone is in there and it's feeding back, there's actually air shooting back up through the saxophone. So if you take your mouth off the mouthpiece and you like kind of put your cheek near the mouthpiece, you can actually feel air shooting out of the saxophone back at you. It's it's crazy. Um, so I don't know what that has to do with leaks. I'm not sure. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I'm really happy about it, and the challenge of this, well, kind of so far is seeing like, well, how does this fit into the program? Because the U of T program isn't like, or at least the DMA program isn't totally designed to like foster this kind of work. So I've really had to, Wallace has been great, and Ayun and Elliot. I'm kind of like building an environment, and I found the right people to support this research and to help it go forward. But um, it's not part of the repertoire, and it's also not jazz. And yeah, so it's a really that it's a challenge to try and find where that fits in. Oh, working again. Thank you. Thinking hard about the dips. Yeah, of why it restarts. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, there's so many. There are a lot of things that I don't understand about it. But I think that's part of the beauty um, of im electroacoustic improvisation, is that that's part of the practice, is kind of accepting the stuff that happens by chance and things that are somewhat indeterminate, and yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not just leaving it at the indeterminate part. I'm hoping that there's some of that, but then I'm trying to kind of harness it into pieces, as you heard, and then kind of, as I talk about in the lecture, systematize them and make them, like, turn them into a vocabulary, which I'm sure some improvisers would not want to do at all. They want to keep it kind of wild. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool, and I'd love to see other people play this. But I've really got to work on my notation, and it's yet to be played by anyone else or really tested out. Um, and I think that just has to do with um, the fact that my program is, I'm trying to do a lot of things and trying to make it work within the program. So um, there's not a lot of room for me to like share this thing around. Oh my God, a Leslie speaker. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what that would do? A saxophone analog feedback method book. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't. So my plan for the rest of my DMA program is simply to maybe write a couple of more etudes, do a recital that includes some more repertoire, like the Joji Iwasa piece. So like the contemporary classical works that incorporate various analog media like pedals, and use mics in interesting ways. Write a couple of etudes and then record an album that might consist of some improvisations and pieces. Um, but yeah, the method book, maybe that's a postdoc. I don't know. Um, but yeah, part of turning these improvisations into pieces, I am trying to notate it, and that's been it's a lot of work. I showed a bit of it in the I showed a bit of it in the lecture, so it's coming. Yeah. So Nate, I don't know if can I share. Bear with me for a moment. I'm gonna add like a window capture. I'm gonna see if I can like open up Finale and show you what my notation is. That's a really good question, Art, and it's not it's not obvious. You know what? Let me just show you. So Art is asking um, if you can use slap tonguing or vary the oral cavity volume to solicit particular feedback effects. So there's one thing that you can do with your embouchure to um, change the feedback tone. And on the lower notes, so when you're creating a feedback tone using some more closed fingerings, if you close off the reed um, on the mouthpiece, like if you completely press the reed against the mouthpiece, then it lowers the pitch by about a tone. So you see me doing that in my see me doing that in the first piece. And now, but this is a problem in like my third piece when I'm playing conventional music, and it's actually pedagogically for those saxophone players in here, especially in the classical realm. It's really interesting because if you're trying to blow a conventional note, whatever it is, and cause it to feed back at the same time, if you pinch too hard, the conventional note will come out, but it will change the tuning because you're closing the reed, you're pressing the reed too close to the mouthpiece. And it'll change the tuning of your feedback pitch. So you actually need to like as a classical saxophonist, like just keep the embouchure like in position, but not pinching. Um, no, it doesn't stop the feedback. That's the thing. The only thing that stops or changes the feedback, Nate, is when you when you take away or add enough fingers that it like changes the shape of the resonance chamber enough that it changes feedback. So um, Nate, on the third tune of the recital is me kind of playing a whole piece, which is also kind of balcony as well. That incorporates kind of feedback drones and melody notes on top. Now, these notes you can't just play any of them, so it's really I had to really find like okay when I'm holding down this fingering, this feedback fingering, what other notes can I play on top of it? Um, and uh, and I was able to make something that I thought was well, it's an improvisation, so it was like kind of I thought it was kind of pretty. So let me just open. I'm trying to do a screen share and just show you kind of some of my fingerings in terms of notation. I do have oh October Etude 1. I'll open this up and open this up and show you. Yeah, I think number threes. Well, Jeff, if you're, I don't know if you're still here, but anyways, me and Jeff played with a colleague of ours, David Zuki, who's up in London. He was texting me or messaging me a little bit, and yeah, he really liked the number three as well. And I was saying to him like when I played that, I really felt in the moment. For anyone who's listening here, who does a lot of improvising, like that's really what you want. This idea, time disappearing, all those cliche things, but it really kind of happened. You don't feel like you're searching for anything. You're kind of, things are just happening. And for that improv, I really felt that, which is totally gratifying for this completely new system. Um, okay, I'm just gonna say yes. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna see. I think I'm ready for a screen capture. If I go to OBS, I'm gonna go to window capture, uh, properties. Oh no, not PowerPoint. Oh, Finale. And okay, are you guys seeing that now? Are you seeing the? Yeah, you must be, right? You're seeing this thing. Boom. Oh yeah. Okay, great. Like this smaller. Oh, whatever. We'll. Oh, you know what? I'll do. I'll do this. Can I put me on top? Anyways, it doesn't matter now. I'm just gonna make this. I should have prepared this. Here we go. Yeah, okay. So this is totally funny. All right. So yeah, so you see, like, so here's my notation, and this is kind of like the first version of it. So it got better. I'll show you the second one now. But oh yeah, here we go. DR. So in the begin, oh, I don't have the beginning thing here. Huh. Okay, that must be in another document. Anyways, so I have a key for this, and here the DR means dampen reed. So the top staff is in B flat. So um, when you if you don't you see up here, if you don't dampen the reed, if it's just finger blowing and you finger low B flat, it produces a written C. But then if you do what I said and you completely close the mouthpiece off or close the reed against the mouthpiece, you get a written B flat. And same thing with the B. And it probably works on one other note, but for this piece, I really only explored the dampened reed on two of them. And here later on, I think I do, yeah. Here I kind of change. I'm doing this very ostinato kind of like um, C major, C major thing, and then for this passage here, uh, I'm can leave. I guess it's not clear in the notation, but here you can actually leave the reed dampen for the whole time just to make it a bit easier, and then you're pressing these other keys. So these these instructions here refer to the kind of the European or Londex fingering system, which I really like. So anyway, so yeah, this is the dampen reed thing. Um, and I guess, yeah, I guess when you're, okay, I'm gonna close this. Hold on, let me go back to the chat. Is that, any questions about that? Oh, so blurry. Oh, okay. Yeah, any questions about that? Like that's a closer look. Whoops, that's a closer look at the notation. I'll show you. I gave a little brief. No, let's not save that. I gave you a brief look at the Etude 2 stuff, but it's really way better. It's way cooler and way better because it contains more. Um, it contains more information. Oh yeah, alternate notation. Yeah, so look, I haven't worked on this in September. Um, yeah, so here is not what I played at all, but these are just some ideas. Um, yeah, so here I started playing with the voice, like singing along, and some feedback stuff. Oh, I thought it got a little bit different. Here's some gestures of me holding the feedback pitch. So here I've said, okay, the feedback pitch is the diamond, and then the blowing pitch is the non-diamond. So I can kind of do both. And yeah, this is a bit, oh yeah, here we go. So you can see that here where you have, okay, here's the pitch I'm playing using conventional, uh, yeah, conventional fingerings. I'm actually not, I can't really remember what's going on here. I know this is correct. This is kind of the system I'm going to use. But anyways, okay, I'm going to delete this because that's enough looking at my half-baked. Can I remove this? Remove. Yes. All right, let's full screen this guy again. All right, back to the chat. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get anyone doing this stuff. Um, without a lot of preparation and a lot of instructions and yeah, the X notes, Nathan, that last thing were the fingerings. Yeah, maybe what I can do is I can like maybe post some. I can post to my Instagram so people can kind of have a look at it and just yeah, it's not the final system. I need to actually, my plan is to take that third piece. I was so happy with it, is to kind of transcribe it and maybe leave some things up to in terms of numbers of repeats or like exact contour of the melody, leave that up to the player. But in terms of giving them, okay, you're on this drone and you have these sets of notes and for this amount of time, I really like to do that. And once I do that, then my notation system is gonna, it'll kind of, it'll form something that makes sense. Whereas right now, I'm just really playing with it, and really the full test is giving it to someone else. Because right now it's only me and it's all in my head, and yeah, it makes sense, but it's kind of wild stuff. So until I give it to someone else to play on their own without like really seeing my stuff, then that's the real test. And Art, so he says, what effect does the mouthpiece position on neck have? Same as blowing or different? Relatively little in terms of the feedback tones. But what I've found, but of course, if you're trying to harmonize with yourself, and this is something that I learned to have to make compromises of, is that the feedback notes are going, and depending on the settings of the amp, like on the amp, and I didn't really get into this in the lecture recital, but if I'm playing with the EQ on the amp or the EQ on the, I use a little EQ pedal to help things along. It really changes the kind of the tuning of the scale you're working with, and not not evenly. So if I know for this third piece where I was working with a certain scale and certain chords, I had to kind of go, okay, well, I'm playing this note a lot, so I'm going to push in my mouthpiece for this tone because um, because the feedback tone is really flat, or sorry, the feedback tone is really sharp. So I'm going to push in more than normal so I can kind of be in tune with that feedback pitch. Um, yeah, so it's the tuning thing is challenging. I'm hoping to get a rack mounted EQ, which they are possible. Like right now on this cube amp, this funny cube amp I'm using, it's like you have low, mid, and treble, like three. It's not very subtle. On the EQ pedal I'm using, it's a 5-band EQ, and that's a little bit more useful. But I want to get something that I can put on a rack mounted one, which might have 20. Yeah, so Art asks, could you use an auto tune on amp along with the EQ to slot in feedback pitches? Um, Certainly, if it was in a recorded environment, and that's certainly a road um, that could be gone down, but that's really later. For now, there's so much more to explore with the imperfections of the. Oh, this is good. So this is why we do these things. A 32 band EQ rack. Oh yeah, that's uh that's what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm gonna have to get back to Toronto. So yeah, that's exactly the thing I'm looking for, Art. Now, whether or not, like, I'm imagining having this really like high resolution um, rack mounted EQ, so I can actually go like, okay, for this song, like I want to have these frequencies tuned in this way, so I can like tune my scale. Now whether or not it'll work like that, I don't know. And of course, putting this into Ableton with auto EQs and auto tunes and like presets where I can just move it, Ableton or any digital audio workstation, that's going to um, that would open up certain possibilities. But again, that's like going down a road that I don't know, it takes out the kind of the liveness that I'm enjoying so much right now. Um, Tristan, thanks so much for uh, for listening and for your support. It's really great. I'd love to maybe I can Yeah, I can show this to some of your students someday if I'm ever in the area. Um, yeah, Nathan, yeah, auto tune an app. No, I think really it'd be in a studio setting um, for the auto tune like digital stuff. Okay, thanks, Tristan. So look, I've been if there's yeah, we've been going for like 50 minutes. Analog EQ messes with phase. DSP EQ would give a different result. Hmm. Those are that's above my pay grade or outside of my realm of knowledge, which for now I'm okay with, but certainly to fully um, learn the system and notate it and be able to give it to others and fully exploit it. That's a realm I'm going to have to a road I'm going to have to go down for sure. So um, yeah, thanks everyone for I I didn't expect this. This is not like the standard thing. Like no one told me to do this, but I really wanted to. I really wanted to do a pre-recorded lecture recital because I wanted a certain quality of video and audio. But then, like, I watch Twitch, I watch YouTube, I'm in the chat sometimes. Like, I love it, and I think it's a really good part of digital media, the interaction and being able to talk and interact. So I want to do this. So I'm really pleased that people showed up and are asking questions. And yeah, I really appreciate it. It makes me want to do more of this. Um, because yeah. Oh, hey, John. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was really pleased with it. And the idea of making really pretty music in a really weird way is a is a kind of a dichotomy that I'm interested in. More of this. Yes. Yeah, more experimental music and more experimental ways of making music and more interaction and recording and everything like that. Though the editing and mixing the lecture recital was an immense amount of work, but so I'll have to kind of assemble a team of or some people around me who really understand my vision and my music and my influences so that we can kind of do this more often. And I don't have to have my to be in control of everything. But for this first one, I'm really glad that I kind of took the time to do it because it's been really it's been really really rewarding. Um, yeah. So look, I think yeah. I mean, we were a couple minutes late starting. Yeah. Hey, no problem, Nate. Yeah. When you find some time, you're a working man. But I'm curious. Maybe this is all solo, so I'm also curious of how to work this um, into ensemble stuff. Did a little bit in a course. Played with some with a digital DJ and a percussionist, and was it just DJ and percussion? Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate your support, and definitely it's the U of T saxophones who I've spent so much time with. You'll be first on my list to try out the etudes if you want. Try out my pieces once they're fully complete, and because yeah, I know you guys can play anything, and would be great test subjects. Would be great guinea pigs for this, and you'd really let me know if what works and what doesn't. Um, so um, so look, I'm gonna leave it there. I've been talking for a while, and as Chris and some of the other saxophonists, if you're watching, as they know, I was in doing tech trees for many hours before this. So yeah, Um, Thanks so much, everyone, and please subscribe to my YouTube. That would be great. I'm on Instagram as Greg the Square, and I often post when I'm kind of in writing and experimental mode. I do post a lot. Um, so please follow me there because I really like posting there. And yeah, thanks so much. This is really great first experience for doing something like this, and I'm going to do it again sometime. So have a great night. Enjoy, everyone enjoy their holidays and stay rested and have a happy new year when it rolls around. 2021, it's going to be better. Um, so thank you. I just need to find a way to stop this elegantly. Here we go. Bye bye.